Hello, I'm Chris Richmond, and today I'm off to Great Yarmouth to capture the nostalgic sounds of Joyland. Now, as a sound recordist, I'm always on the hunt for new and interesting things to record, or in this case, old and interesting. So why have I decided to visit a tiny children's amusement park? Well, I guess the big draw for me personally is the nostalgia. As a young boy growing up here in Norfolk, Great Yarmouth was a place my family would often visit during the summer months, and a trip to Yarmouth wouldn't be complete without paying a visit to Joyland.
Right, so here we are on our way to Great Yarmouth. And one of the things I distinctly remember about our trips to Yarmouth as a child was the Acle Strait. And you've got nothing but dead flat marshes either side, and Yarmouth just gradually getting closer and closer on the horizon, and then you can start picking out the little individual landmarks.
Nestled alongside the imposing Britannia Pier, Joyland has been a staple of Great Yarmouth seafront for decades. With its quirky collection of electrically powered rides, including the famous Snails, the park has been operated by the Cole family since its inception in 1949. Today, I meet fourth generation Mikey Cole, who's arranged for me to come and record the rides. Right, hello Mikey.
Nice to meet you.
So this is a bit of a nostalgia trip for me, but this is more of sort of a way of life for you, isn't it?
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about your heritage and the history of the park.
Yeah, so I've been here for a long time now. I've did summer seasons when I wasn't at school from about 13 or 14, here and there helping. And ever since I finished my mechanical engineering degree, I've been full-time here, helping the business, mostly looking after the rides, but helping with the day-to-day things when we're open. And Joyland has been here since 1949. We're celebrating 75 years of the Snails and the Tubs this year, which is obviously quite a milestone in itself, but yeah. It's a good job and I enjoy it.
Yeah, these rides, they're 75 years old this year.
Yep.
Was it your great-grandfather that built
Great-grandfather
them?
Horace Cole, at H. Cole and Company. And
Built locally?
Yep, and then my grandfather Frank, who started the business here in Joyland, operating it.
A lot of your great-grandfather's rides all have a similar principle. They're all motorised cars on an electric track.
Yep.
So how do they work?
So yeah, the rides here are very simple. So if we look at the Snails, for example, it's a motor-driven ride, and it's chain-driven on an axle. So obviously the power goes into the motor, turns the chain, drives the axle. You've got two what we call wipers on either end of the track, which sit on the flat steel, and then in the centre there is a what we call a front assembly that runs on a rail, so it can't come up. It's locked into the rail with what we call safety catches. They kind of come underneath the rail, so if the snail were to tip back, the safety catches stop it from tilting right back, and you've got another wiper that sits on there, your positive and your negative. So obviously the power comes in through the side wipers into the motor, that obviously turns, which turns the chain, which then in turn turns the axle, which powers the snail, and then comes back through the centre rail. Very simple, but effective.
Now, it's all very well and good, but the tubs don't actually have a guide rail, so they're literally just bashing their way around the track.
Yeah, they kind of go where they're going to go. They have all different, if you look at the sides of the tubs, they've got big wheels, so as they come into a corner and impact it, that kind of stops it from obviously damaging the ride and drives it round into the next straight.
Are they still the original motors, or is it kind of like a Trigger's broom situation where they've been replaced over the years and it's not the original thing? So they have that iconic sound, and that's one of the things that I'm here to capture. It's the sound of my childhood. It's the sound of many people's childhoods over the last 75 years.
Yeah. So yeah, you are slightly right with Trigger's broom. They are in principle the same, but we overhaul them and take them out every year, test them. If they need to be rewound, we take them up to a local company up the road called Great Yarmouth Rewinds. They do all our rewinding work on our motors for us.
So given the fact the rides are 75 years old this year, what makes Joyland so special? Why do people keep coming back, and why has nothing changed?
It's a brilliant question. I think it's a generation thing. We've been here for quite a long time. The Snails and the Tubs have been here since 1949, and I think people that rode them back in the late 40s, early 50s, 60s can remember those rides, and that was their childhood, and they've obviously now grown up, had kids, their kids have had kids, so they're now the grandparents, and they can bring their grandchildren or their children down and show them what they experienced when they were younger. And because they haven't really changed much, they've changed a little bit. Layouts of the rides have changed, and theming and how the rides look, but the core ride experience is still there. So, you know, someone who's now 60s, 70s, 80s can bring their grandchildren and say to them, you know, I rode these in the 40s and 50s, and I can now, you know, relive my memories, my childhood through you and show you what we did back in the day. And I think that's the main thing. While the Snails are, you know, are easily our most popular ride, is that generation thing. You know, the family comes down, we can say, oh, you know, we used to do this back in the day, now we're going to take you on for a ride.
Yeah, and get bad back. So, what kind of sounds can we expect to record here in the park? What can we expect to hear that makes this place unique?
So when we go around today and record some of the noises, you're going to hear you know, a whole variety of sounds. Some will be electrical and some will be mechanical. So you're going to hear the whines of the motors as the rides are going round. You're also going to hear the mechanical noises, especially on the Snails, Tubs and Neptunes, of when the diff pins are clicking away in the wheels. That could be on corners or on straights. You're also going to hear just the general noises of things rubbing, you know, friction and things like that. The wipers that kind of glide along the track when they go over the raised sections, you're really going to hear that.
Oh yes, the sparking.
The sparking as well, yeah.
As it goes round.
Yeah, the contacts is where it's sparking there. You'll hear some of that as well. And also on some of our smaller rides, you know, we've got some hydraulic systems. Here's some hydraulic pumps and things like that.
Yeah. And of course the pirate ship, which is an interesting concept, completely different from anything else.
Yeah, so the pirate ship, again, like most of our rides here, ever so simple. It drives in one direction and then kind of pulls back again on its gravity. So when you start the ride, you kind of have to give it a few pumps to get it going. There's some limit switches at the top, so as the limit switch is pushed in, it knows where the position is. So as it comes back, when it hits the switch, it tells the motor to drive it forward and comes back again on its own gravity. And it's just a timed ride, so once the time is finished, it cuts the power and just stops on its own accord.
Right, so shall we go and record some of these interesting sounds?
Yeah, let's go get some recordings done.
Alright.
First, we must wait till the general public are all off site before we can begin recording the rides. This way we can avoid disruption and also the sound recordist's nightmare, copyrighted music. The rides are recorded from multiple angles, capturing rides setting off, passing by and returning at the end of the tracks. One of the things I'm particularly keen to capture are those nostalgic motor sounds. The tubs were particularly tricky, so Mikey volunteered to follow one on the live track as it bashed its way around the ride. And of course, I had to have a ride on the Snails. 3 in fact. Each one has its own sonic character, and navigating the track with a microphone in my hand under the seat was an interesting experience. Luckily the mic is held in place by a shock mount. The kiddie coaster, the Spook Express, was recorded from multiple angles, including inside the cave right by the track.
Well, this is a bizarre situation. I'm inside the Spook Express.
As well as the ride cars, the dark ride, Neptune's Kingdom, has a range of motorised props which all make mechanical noise, and the ride finishes with a scare prop which shakes a door back and forth. For the pirate ship, Mikey was able to get a microphone underneath, right up close to the motor.
Right, well I think that just about covers everything. Lots of interesting sounds all recorded from various perspectives. I have no idea how they've all turned out, so let's go home and see how they sound. Right, I've just had a quick listen through and I think we've managed to capture some pretty good stuff. However, there are a few issues I've discovered, which I can hopefully get around when I start to edit. For example, my NT4 microphone picked up harsh electrical click sound every time the current pickup was interrupted on the ride cars, particularly on the Snails and Tubs. Listen. Hopefully these individual clicks and pops can be easily edited out in this scenario, otherwise that motor sound has turned out really well. You can also hear how different each car sounds. My favourite is Snail number 9.
It really has that classic whine I remember as a child. Compare that with number 3, it hardly has any whine at all. Another issue I discovered during recording was the occasional unwanted noise from the kiddie rides. Dotted all around the park, they would pipe up and play a jingle every so often.
Would you like a ride on the telephone car?
Then there was Neptune's Kingdom. The motorised octopus had an unfortunate squeaking sound which resonated through the whole building, and picked up on the curve where Mikey suggested we record the ride cars passing by.
That is the tightest bend we have on the track here.
I've cleaned it up with a bit of subtractive EQ because the squeaks have their own distinct pitch and harmonics, but it's not perfect. The clicking of the ride car diff pins has picked up well though, and some cars click more than others. All in all, I'm pleased with how the recordings turned out. It was definitely a learning curve for me, but I'm grateful for the experience, and Mikey did an excellent job following the tub with the mic. A selection of these sounds will be available to listen to here on my channel. Stay tuned, and hopefully you too can recall the sounds of your childhood at Joyland. Now for the obligatory closing paragraph. If you enjoy my quirky, if slightly self-indulgent adventures, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.